Jigs go by many names: stencils, patterns, templates, overlay, boilerplate, and guides. Jewelers, carpenters, welders, metalworkers, architects, designers, attorneys, cavemen, web programmers, and quilters use jigs.
Jigs are used whenever something has to be produced precisely again and again, so that the creator doesn't need to reinvent the wheel every time. A jig is, in one sense, the beginning of automation.
It turns out that there are many cognitive jigs and that they're immensely useful to systems thinkers. In this section, we're talking about cognitive jigs that save us effort and increase the speed of thought and understanding.
A cognitive jig is a common underlying structure of systems thinking. Cognitive jigs can be used over and over again to create meaning and understanding. They can be used across any topic or domain or discipline. Use of cognitive jigs facilitates interdisciplinarity. For example, in chemistry, we look at relationships between compounds. In English, we look at relationships between written parts of a research paper. And in human development, we look at relationships between people or groups.
You've used cognitive jigs countless times before. There are 4 that you're already quite familiar with: analogies, metaphors, similes, and categories. Analogies are cognitive jigs. The cornerstone of analogy technology is that it is a common cognitive structure. The genius behind the invention of analogies was that they gave us a mental model of a common way we understand things by comparing it to a known thing. 2 other cognitive jigs are subtypes of analogies, and you are familiar with them as similes and metaphors. As you can see in this figure, analogies, similes, and metaphors share common information and structure, shown in orange, and also have some differences, shown in black. Shakespeare said in As You Like It, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances." Shakespeare was making a metaphor that the world is a stage. Inside his metaphor, he was also implying an analogy between the relationships of men and women, and deaths and births, and players, or actors, and their exits and entrances.
Analogies, similes, and metaphors are powerful cognitive jigs, in large part because they help us to relate unfamiliar things with familiar things. There's another cognitive jig that you are familiar with already: categories. Categories have a similarly long history to analogies, but categories have some serious drawbacks.
The invention of the category dates back to Aristotle, 384 to 322 BC. Today, we can hardly imagine what it would be like to exist in a world unstructured by categorization. Like analogies, categories have much to be admired. It is common parlance in the field of cognitive science to say that categories are universal cognitive structures, that we cannot survive nor have a thought without them.
Yet categories have a dark side. They're a cognitive cul-de-sac, or a dead end, in the road. Categorization makes us feel like we're getting somewhere, speeding down the highway of understanding and knowledge until, wham, dead end, we're stuck. And it usually takes a long time to get unstuck.
Are you serious? That's usually the reaction we get when we say that we're suspicious of categories. After all, categorization has given us so many gifts of understanding. The scientific disciplines like physics, chemistry, biology, psychology, sociology, and economics. The hierarchy of biological classifications, life, domains, kingdoms, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Bloom's taxonomy with knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. And also the organization of the internet, your computer desktop, office filing systems, libraries like directories and structures and file folders, the Dewey Decimal System, and all of those things.
Categories make us feel like we understand the universe, but the question is, do categorical structures adequately represent the real structure of the universe? Do categories help us feel or be more knowledgeable?
Worst among the impacts of blind category use are the categorization skills we teach to children that lead them to be less robust, more black and white, and less adaptive thinkers. The application of discrete categories to real-world phenomena is inadequate to fully understand something. Instead, we must see that all categorization is based on a perspective that is usually not made explicit. We should replace static categories with part-whole systems grouped dynamically by explicit perspectives.